Thanks, Ainsley. And tonight on our great American panel, he is a survivor of the September 11th terrorist attack on the Pentagon, author of Refined by Fire. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Birdwell is with us. She's the former chairwoman of the Virginia Republican Party, current vice president of the Young America's Foundation. Kate Obenshain is with us, and he was Bill Bradley's deputy campaign manager, currently serves on the pastoral staff at Canaan Baptist Church in Harlem. Jacques DeGraff is back with us. Thanks for being here. All right, so we have, another czar in trouble, and many of them. All right, the latest one, this guy, Kevin Jennings. Here's a guy, you're a pastor, and a 15-year-old kid, it goes into his office, seeks advice. He's having a relationship with with an adult, which, by the way, he said it was 15. That would be statutory rape. And does he call the police? Does he tell authorities? Does he get him counseling? No, he asked him if he wore a condom. You have a problem with that?
Obviously, it was poor judgment.
Poor judgment.
It was poor judgment. He made a mistake. When people are 24 years old, they sometimes make mistakes. People who are older than that. It was a mistake in judgment. It wasn't malice, and it wasn't malfeasance. It was a mistake in judgment.
So this is going to be our safe school czar.
Yeah. It's not a mistake when somebody goes to an adult asking advice and a 24-year-old adult doesn't protect the interests of a 15-year-old child. I mean, this is something that is very wrong about our school system if this is happening. But for the man who is supposed to be promoting safe schools, he's a mandatory reporter as a teacher, and yet allowed this to happen without protecting the child. The child even said, "I don't even feel like I have a reason to live." All he said was, "I hope you wear a condom." That's just wrong.
Well, this is the question. This is another example of no vetting at the White House. Should this guy have to either resign or be fired?
For what?
I'm asking him.
Well, when you walk by a mistake, you've just set a new low standard. And the problem is that the president has surrounded himself with people that have set low standards in many other areas. Redemption is certainly a possibility here, but the strategic way you look at this is that you've got a gentleman that obfuscated the parents, set a new low standard for a form of conduct that the American people would not tolerate, and that's yet the now defining issue of the federal government being involved in our schools. That's the challenge.
And he wrote the foreword for this book, Queering Elementary Education. He writes the foreword for this book, and guess who else blurbs the book? Bill Ayers, the terrorist.
But if your real problem is with his homosexuality, which is what I believe, that's what I believe.
No.
I believe that's your real problem, number one. Number two, I can have my belief because you have yours.
Well, wait a minute. If he did this to a girl, I'd feel the same way.
I'm saying, not you, Sean Hannity, but the people who are raising these objections, many of them have problems with homosexuals in schools. And those are stated problems, that many of the issues are about they promote homosexuality in schools. So why don't we say that? In this particular instance, he wasn't auditioning for the position of safety czar at that time. He made a mistake. He's apologized for the mistake. He has done a lot of other things in the intervening years.
True. He found the group GLSEN, which sponsored this controversial, event that took place in Massachusetts, where they were describing, unbelievable sex acts for kids.
No, it speaks to his qualification for this job, for one thing. For another thing, we shouldn't be teaching our children about being active sexually when they're in kindergarten and elementary school. But also, Sean, you talk about a vetting problem. I don't think so. I think that Barack Obama has made a decision to surround himself with people who are activists. You look at who he's chosen for these czars, and these are not somebody who've mistakenly tumbled into these positions. They've been selected.
I mentioned that earlier. I mean, you have, Holdren, who supports, forced sterilization.
It's bizarre, the things that some of these people have advocated.
You're responsible for everything your unit does or fails to do, and the people that you place around you, that you put in charge to go do those things, they're representing the President of the United States, and there's a conduct that's being condoned here that the majority of the American people won't accept.
Let me ask you, because you're defending this, Jacques. No, you are. You said it's a mistake. All right, what about the guy that supported forced sterilization? Again, in a book. This guy wrote a book. You have Cass Sunstein, who wants animals to have rights, and lawyers represent them in court. You have another guy that says, well, Sharia law can be applied in American courts. You have another guy that wants to paint every roof in America white. I mean, do you see a pattern developing here?
Yeah, I see a pattern of distraction from the main issues of the day.
No,
These are the and the main issues of the day. The main issues of the day are health care in America and getting the economy right. And all of these things are continued distractions by people on the right, the people who lost the last election, to try and distract the American people from the issues that are affecting Main Street and 125th Street across this country.
If people on the right or anywhere don't stand up for children being protected, there is something very wrong.
Democrats stand up, and this administration stands up for children. This administration has put more money in education than the last 29 secretaries of education.
Then get rid of the guy who said it was okay for a 15-year-old to be having sex with an adult.
And the answer
that is where they stand up for children.
And the answer is no. No, they stood up when it comes by putting their money where their policies are.
Unbelievable.
Unlike the administration of George Bush, which passed No Child Left Behind and put no money with it. This administration is on a tour right now. The Secretary of Education is on a tour to raise the quality of schools.
Can I jump into this thing real quick, if I may, Sean? This is not about a particular policy. This is about the philosophy of government that our nation will live under.
All right, but
that's what this fight's about.
Let me expand the argument in this sense. We've been dealing with the issue of Polanski for the last number of nights here in this program, and I'm shocked. You know, here's a guy, he pumps a 13-year-old girl full of Quaaludes and alcohol 30 years ago. He's 44, she's 13. He sodomizes this girl, and more than a number of Hollywood liberals are saying we should not put him in jail. Does you have a problem with that?
In New York City, the hero of the Super Bowl 2 years ago is sitting in a prison cell right now because actions have consequences. A former
Except if you're Kevin Jennings.
prize fighter raped a girl, was convicted, and his celebrity could not save him. He did time in jail because actions have consequences.
So you want him to go to jail?
Roman Polanski, like every other American citizen, has to face the bar of justice, and actions have consequences.
Go back to your last argument. Actions have consequences. If you don't report a crime against a child that is having sex with an adult, I thought actions have consequences.
Actions have consequences. And
so Kevin Jennings shouldn't be the safe schools
That's not a consequence of his action.
Oh, good grief. Your logic just
There has to be some consequence for that action, and you shouldn't be rewarded with the position of safe schools are.
The child also had parents who have responsibilities also. The child was a trouble.
The kid went to the teacher. The teacher told them, well, wear a condom.
Which child parents has a responsibility are you talking about?
We're talking about Kevin Jennings.
Okay, Kevin Jennings.
All right.
You were talking about the little girl's mom.
You want to say?
I'm just concerned that we're condoning a conduct that we wouldn't expect. I, as a parent, am the customer in the public schools, not my child. My child is the subject of the commodity I'm purchasing, but I, as the parent, am the customer.
It's a great line. We got a lot more to get to when we get back. And Jimmy Carter, by the way, says, stop threatening Iran. Oh, you know, beam me up, Scotty. There's no intelligent life down here. More with our great American panel. Straight ahead. And we continue now with our great American panel. All right, so Jimmy, first of all, we had Brzezinski, who was the national security advisor under Jimmy Carter. He says, by the way, if Israel deems it in their national security interest to shoot their planes out of the sky, confront them in the air, now Jimmy Carter says, stop threatening Israel. I mean, stop threatening Iran. And I'm thinking, it's Ahmadinejad that's saying they want to wipe Israel off the map. How could you have it so blank backwards?
Are we listening to what Jimmy Carter has to say? I mean, do we have any memory as a nation as to what a disaster his foreign policy was?
You lived through the Pentagon attack.
This is a very passionate subject to me. The nation's defense and the security of my people and everybody that says they're an American. This is passionate to me. You understand this, Sean. Enemies do not capitulate because of what you've done to them or what you're even capable of doing. It's what you're prepared and willing to do.
Yeah.
Japan didn't surrender because of 2 nuclear weapons. They surrendered because they were thinking about the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th. And the Ayatollah didn't give us back 52 Americans after 444 days because of what President Carter had done, but because they would believe President Reagan would order be done.
What a sign of weakness, though, to sit down. Would you sit down with a Holocaust-denying, Israel threatening to wipe them off the map, madman that has defied the world community, is firing missiles, has a secret nuclear facility? What are you going to say to the Holocaust denier when you sit down with them? Here,
I trust my president and the Secretary of State.
I trust my president.
I trust my president and the President of the United States and the Secretary of State.
You supported every decision he made on national security?
I trusted him and that he was the commander-in-chief and that he was doing the best that he could.
Well,
I believe he did the best he could.
You're one of the few Democrats that weren't excoriating him for, quote, bombing innocent civilians and killing them in cold blood.
At the end of the day, he was the only president that we had, and he was our commander-in-chief, and I respected that. I didn't agree with it, but I respected it.
So we have this study, Kate, where we have this General McChrystal. He says, look, and he sent this in late August to the president.
Right.
Okay. He says, look, either we have more troops or we risk failure in Afghanistan. So we find out, how often did the president talk to McChrystal? Once in like 100 days.
Right.
And was shamed into talking to him again this week. And now the Obama administration, they don't see the urgency. They say they're going to take weeks to study what they're going to do there.
Say what you will about the Bush administration. I think across the board, people give President Bush credit for listening to his commanders on the ground, saying they are the ones there. And when President Bush did agree that we needed to have this surge in Iraq, everything turned around. And I think obviously General McChrystal is well respected and regarded and has the knowledge of what we need. And for Obama to be dithering around while he's sitting down with Ahmadinejad, that presents major questions about his...
He's also out fighting to get the Olympics for his cronies in Chicago.
National will is measured in mindset. We've got all there's 8 principles of war, Sean, and there's 3 of them that are very essential here: offensive, objective, and initiative. If you want to be taken serious, you better act serious. And right now, what we're frittering away is the offensive mindset of imposing our will on the enemy. And you only got 2 choices: impose yours or accept your enemies upon you. Yeah. And we're in the process of accepting our enemies upon us.
Excuse me, but I happen to remember Vietnam, and when the commanders in the field were giving advice to the President of the United States, it was incorrect advice. And so sometimes someone who is not on the battlefield needs to measure a variety of data and advice, including the commanders in the field. The commanders in the field are not the sole repository of wisdom, because there's no one in this room or in the Congress who can define what a victory in Afghanistan would be today.
Well, McChrystal certainly can, because he is.
No. What would victory be in Afghanistan?
McChrystal is saying, if you don't give us the troops, we risk failure. Give me the troops, I can get the job done. And the president has ignored him and won't even talk to the guy.
Generals before him for 8 years have not been able to define what victory would be.
Well, Petraeus and McChrystal
but the President of the United States, before he raises the stakes, is rightfully reviewing his options.
McChrystal has made it very clear what defeat is, and that is not giving him the troops, because that will allow al-Qaeda to take over Afghanistan. And that is a failure that we cannot face. And by the way, in Vietnam, there was a little brain trust of brainiacs that was brought in, not commanders on the field, to manipulate policy decisions in Vietnam. That was one of the main problems about the disaster in Vietnam.
You suffered in 9/11. You were in the Pentagon, and you had pretty severe injuries. Okay, very severe injuries.
I wear the scars of not knowing who's in this country. Yeah.
Condi Rice said, if we pull out of Afghanistan, we will have another 9/11.
Yeah, and I don't think her comment is designed at a piece of geography. It's back to that mental mindset that says we're going to go from the offensive mindset to a defensive mindset, and there's 2 distinct disadvantages when you're on defense. One, you have to defend everywhere, and you're not imposing your will on your enemy anywhere.
All right, let me move on. We have this Congressman Grayson, and among other things, he says about the Republican plans, don't get sick, and if you do get sick, die quickly. Then he compared, by not supporting the health care reform bill, he compared it to the Holocaust, and then he came out and called Obamacare opponents knuckle-dragging Neanderthals. Now, Nancy Pelosi, who was weepy and teary-eyed, close to tears, she says she will not call on Grayson to apologize for the Republicans. Now, this is the same people that feign such outrage, selective moral outrage over the comments of Joe Wilson?
Joe Wilson insulted the President of the United States in a joint session of Congress.
Do you think comparing Republicans to the Holocaust because they have a different view on health care?
He didn't call it the Holocaust. He referred to a Holocaust.
But what of the Holocaust was he talking about?
The Holocaust. No, a Holocaust being genocide.
All right,
in general, it's
Republicans
generic.
Want people
the Holocaust
to die.
Is a particular annihilation, attempted annihilation of people, European Jews, at a point in time. They are not the same thing.
Do you think it's appropriate?
There have been more than one Holocaust.
She's lecturing the country on the tone, and this guy is saying Republicans want people to die. Is that the tone that she's lecturing us about?
He is saying, and he uses
defend
a
anything.
rhetorical.
Rhetorical.
He was using a rhetorical device. It's called tongue-in-cheek and exaggeration
No.
to make a point. You asked me a question, and what he said was the Republican Party, which has not come up with a coherent plan yet,
You're really
and
struggling.
has just been
You are.
negative throughout this process.
You are really stretching.
No, you are ignoring the will of the American people.
He has had numerous opportunities to say, I was tongue-in-cheek, I wasn't serious.
He did say that.
No,
he did not.
didn't.
He did say
He
that.
came back and then he said, he compared it to the Holocaust at that point.
No, he
Look,
did not.
Joe
Read the
Wilson
quote.
apologized.
Read the quote.
And arguably, he had every reason to jump up and say, you lie. After what's come out after that, he said it wasn't the appropriate forum. A lot of people agree with that. But what happened with Grayson is unbelievable. For him to stand up there and say that the Republicans have not put forth a health care proposal, go to GOP.gov. You'll see their health care proposal, and you'll see numerous that other people have proposed. There are concrete provisions, and to say the only thing that they have said is you die is wrong. And by the way, the comparison to the Holocaust is completely out of line.
But there is no comparison to the Holocaust.
Yes,
Let's
there
get that
was.
straight.
Yes, there was.
He used the word
He has
Holocaust,
every
and there has
opportunity
been
to
more than
clarify
one
that.
Holocaust in world history.
You're the only person that doesn't seem to understand
No,
that.
I understand that we won the last
said
election,
right.
and the people who won the last election are going to
hang on a
demonstrate their
second.
background on this
The
issue.
thing, Sean, is that I can teach courtesy. Joe Wilson was wrong in standing up at a joint session, absolutely. But he was telling the truth.
He proved
This other guy,
correct.
He's proven correct. This congressman, while he wasn't rude, isn't correct.
All right, guys, good panel. Appreciate it. Thank you. No passion tonight, none whatsoever.